First off, what's weird about Kareem and Varun?
He starts off with some quote or a passage or poetry, and then he draws like an insight from it and brings it back to like how we want to think about clay or go to market or the level of work or whatever it is. I remember like the first all hands meeting that I was a part of. I think that was like during the work trial, and I might have been like a minute late or something, and Kareem's up there like reciting poetry. I was like, what's going on at this company?
Hey, Alex.
Hey Nathan, good to see you.
Yeah, same. Super excited to get us two shy people on camera talking about clay and GTM engineering and a bunch of interesting things, I hope. I call Alex the unicorn whisperer. He has joined 8 Series A companies, and 4 of them have become unicorns, including clay now, as of a couple days ago. He has a rapidly growing newsletter, claymation.io, and is a GTM engineer at Clay. So every day he's seeing all these crazy workflows. He's going to show us a few of those today. So really excited to have you here, Alex.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. I totally resonate with your comment about shyness. I used to be extremely shy. When I tell people that, they like just don't even believe it.
And now you're on sales calls all day.
And now I'm on sales calls all day and on like podcasts, and I don't actually like being on videos, but that's why I'm trying to be on more like video recordings so I get like better at it.
Mm.
But yeah, when I started in sales, I didn't have any like training, and I didn't like talking that much, or like giving pitches. So to compensate for like the shyness, I would just ask questions. And apparently that's a pretty good way to sell, because you just start understanding what the customer's doing. You're showing like curiosity. And so that's kind of how I learned in the beginning to like sell effectively and not talk too much, because I didn't want to talk. I just started asking questions
Yeah.
out of general like curiosity.
Like, I think the stereotype of the good salesperson is like a Wolf of Wall Street guy with his hair slicked back, but in reality, especially for less transactional sales, I would imagine like asking questions actually builds trust. You actually learn what they need, and I agree, like more analytical, quiet types can absolutely dominate, even if it doesn't look like they're, doing a good job to someone who doesn't, isn't on the receiving end, I guess, of the sales conversation.
Totally. And like you can always learn so much about the customer, their business. So it's also an opportunity to just like learn about some like interesting things behind the scenes, like the more you dig deeper. So I enjoy that part of it quite a lot.
You have had a ton of success either picking or creating incredible companies. I don't know which. Like out of the 8 Series A companies you've joined, 4 have become unicorns. Why join Clay as a GTM engineer? What are you optimizing for there?
Yeah, so it's interesting story. I was in cyber security for 5 years, which is, an industry that's doing like extremely well, more cyber attacks than like ever. It's more important than ever. So it's a great field to like be in, because there's like a lot happening, a lot of opportunity. But I found myself kind of just getting like burnt out from that industry and that type of like sale. It's interesting because I thought that you want to be in the same industry for like a long period of time, because that experience kind of compounds industry knowledge, like the people, connections, all of that. But then I took kind of like a short break and was really thinking about what I wanted to do next. I looked at like 40 to 50 companies, a ton of interviews, and hi Zoe, that's my toddler.
Oh, oh. Cute.
So I did a ton of interviews, different industries. I was just trying to figure out what was going to like get me like really excited again, because I wanted to get back to that place where I was just like enthusiastic about what I was selling, excited about the industry, excited about like disrupting something. To kind of like get started, I was also posting on LinkedIn and started a newsletter, and that's when Varun reached out we had been in contact like over the past 2 years because I was using Clay internally.
Oh, interesting.
And I always thought there was like something special with the tool and the people at Clay. Never thought I would actually join. And Varun was like, "Hey, I have a job for you." And I thought it was like joking. I thought we were just going to talk about like Clay stuff, and maybe it was like a job to,
I see.
I don't know, write a blog post or something, not to actually like work at Clay.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I was like, "Look, I don't know if I want to leave cyber." And he was like, "Well, come do a work trial, come join for like several weeks, see how you like it, dive deeper into Clay." And so I started diving deeper into Clay and like really learning it. And then I realized, wow, I've been missing something like this for a while. And that something is being able to be like creative throughout the And in all customer conversations, we're always talking about new workflows, new ways of going to market, new ways of personalizing, not even like outbound, personalizing experience across like customer success and like marketing and other job functions. And I just realized like this is such like a human need, and I've been missing that. And the combination of starting to write online again in a newsletter and then learning how to build stuff in Clay just kind of lit me up again.
Nice.
And I was all of a sudden excited about being in tech sales, excited about a product. And now like I'm just all in. So like Clay day to day, in calls, back to back, love talking to customers, but then at night either catching up on that work or creating content and workflows and building things in Clay or experimenting with new AI ways of like doing things, and then like writing for claymation.io. And then I got so obsessed with newsletters that I started another one, the augmentedseller.com, how to use AI in sales. But anyway, going back to your question, like, why Clay? It was that realization that creativity, this was going to be a place where I could be like creative and build. And that just like really excited me again. On top of that, it was just completely different than what I was doing before. So it was just like a fresh start, so to speak.
Awesome. Yeah, I can feel how much fun it must. Probably scary for like at first when you get on calls and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to know how to help them with what they want to. But then probably you start seeing a lot of patterns after a while. And
yeah, in the beginning, I was taking all these calls like for small deals, and there would be so many questions that popped up that I just like didn't know how to answer. And so it took like a while to just go through a huge volume of calls and one by one just learn how to do certain things. That was kind of the best way to really like learn Clay when I started.
What does your day-to-day at Clay look like? Is it mostly it's just calls and then catching up with follow-ups afterwards, or something different?
Yeah, I would say it's like in a couple different buckets of like types of things. Like first, majority of the day is like with customers on calls, and that's a combination of like discovery calls, running POCs, building POCs out, all of that. At Clay, the notion of GTM Engineer is wrapping like the sales role and the solution engineering role into one. So the sales rep doesn't need to go off and get answer to like a quick technical question. We can just do it like within our role. So trying to create like a better customer experience through that. So that's like kind of like most of the days with customers. Then another big part is knowledge sharing internally. So we have like a solutions team, we have an operations team, obviously the GTM engineering team, and we typically meet for some topic almost like every single day. And in that, we're sharing best practices on like how to do something in Clay or a new challenge that's popped up or how to position something new, because there's just like so many things you can do with Clay and so many things like we're adding to the product in terms of like integrations, that just a large part of the job is just keeping up with everything that's going on and helping each other learn faster.
Yep.
So we have that meeting. And then I would say the other big part right now is like interviews, hiring a ton of GTM engineers. So we have, this week I think I had like an interview every single day.
Oh, wow.
So that's been becoming a bigger part of the kind of like day to day. But yeah, mostly with customers, then internal stuff where it's a lot of sharing of knowledge and figuring out how to continue to grow, both individually and from like a team perspective. And then now like lots of interviews. Then it continues when I go home. Because then it's like, okay, now I need to like actually do the work that's coming out of all these calls. So, and it's family time, and then later in the evening going back to work, and then if I have any spare time after that, then it's just creating content for the newsletters and like LinkedIn.
Makes sense. So yeah, it sounds like a lot of, like you said, a lot of creativity. I'm sure you'll convince a couple of people to apply, at least from this video, to apply to Clay as a GTM engineer.
I hope so.
What I've seen with Kareem and Varun, I'm assuming it's them that have made the decisions around combining these roles, like combining a traditional sales role with solution engineer, or combining like engineering and product management as well. I think they made a lot of unconventional decisions that are kind of sneakily keeping the team much closer to customers, having a crazy Slack channel from the beginning without an informal research function. When I worked at PandaDoc, we had a very small research team. What we found is talking with customer insight aggregators, people that are interacting with customers every day, like salespeople, is an incredible shortcut to bringing customer centricity and customer insights inside the company. And I don't know if they intuitively know that, or they've seen that work previously, but it sounds super smart. That Clay, obviously the leadership team and everyone in the company is really smart, and I really value those decisions, and they're kind of invisible ones that add up into creating such a great product.
Yeah, it's so true. Like even the encouragement of like speed to sharing insight or feedback is incredible. So for example, like I would maybe take a screenshot and then maybe write up the feedback later in the evening. But then they're like, when you're on the call with the customer, just take a screenshot and be like, hey, I'm actually putting this in the feedback channel right now.
Nice.
And one, that just increases the speed of that feedback. But then two, it also shows the customer like, hey, we're like very active in taking this feedback because we want to build like the best product.
For sure. Massive
Culture of taking feedback from the field and then bringing it back to like the engineering and product teams very, as much as possible. It's like highly encouraged and like ingrained in the sort of like job responsibility too, I would say.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen that wherein I like to give feedback, and maybe 3 or 4 times I'll put something in, then a day later or a week later, a month later, we built that, and then it's like every time I can point to that feature and say, that was me, and I'm sure that other people, like it's not just me that suggested it. At least several other people have said it, but it feels that made me into that's a big part of what helped me be a Clay lunatic. Is seeing how much the team cares. I've seen other products that I could have become obsessed about, and them not taking feedback really kind of prevented that from happening. How are you picking these sort of unicorn to baby unicorn companies?
Yeah, so like the first one I got lucky.
Okay.
Like I joined a company out of school. It was like Tech Target, and they didn't originally want to hire me because I was like entrepreneurial and I was starting something in school. But then I went to the CEO and was like, hey, I think they made a mistake. I think I am a good fit for this company. They hired me, and then I had to work for the person that didn't want to hire me. So a week later, I was out of the company. Okay. So then I went to like one of my mentors, Peter Bell, who was at Highland Capital at the time, VC. I was like, Peter, what in the world do I do now? Like I just failed at starting my own company. I just graduated from school, and I just pretty much failed in the corporate world. And he was like, hey man, like your place is at a startup. Go look for like these things and learn how they do it, and then someday go back to the drawing board and start something. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did, and I just applied to every single startup I could find in Boston and the surrounding area. And this was like on a job board. Like it was literally like a job posting. And just got lucky with Acquia. They took me in. I was like the first sales rep there. 15 employees, and then that just took off. That was like pretty lucky. Other times, I try to have like a hypothesis about the market and competition and why this company would get to like distribution faster than others. Mm-hmm. So like when I was interviewing at Clay, I had interviewed at like 40, 50 different companies. Like I wanted to take every single call I could. And a lot of times I would be in like one product, like say like cloud cost management, and I would go and interview at like all the competition too. So I wanted to figure out which one was thinking about the market differently, had a differentiated approach to go to market, and then kind of like decide. So I have like a kind of like a checklist of things that I think about, but usually I'm spending like a lot of time trying to figure out like what company has like the best shot at like growing really fast. And it's usually a combination of differentiate technology, but then also like differentiated go to market. I really think you need both because it's so easy to copy tech these days. Like
Yeah.
we just saw that with DeepSeek coming out of like nowhere. You need to have something more than just a good product or differentiated product. You also need a different way of bringing it to market, finding that distribution.
Often much harder to copy, especially if your competitors try and do a straddled strategy where they're trying, hey, I'm going to take this one part of their strategy, and they don't, like, for example, Clay lookalikes that don't have the community and all the things you can do with that, and the growth loop around that it's probably pretty hard. But I see them come up and disappear pretty quickly most of the time.
It's that community that's so powerful. Like that was what I learned at Acquiax, where it was a very vibrant like open source community around Drupal. People would get tattoos, they would do naked bike rides, like all this crazy stuff to show their like love for this open source technology. And so when you start having see that passion coming from a community, and then people in the community making friends and jiving together, and it becomes something more than just work, that is like a really strong moat. And I saw that happening like at Clay. Like even now being in the community for a longer period of time. For example, like you and I met, we started like jamming on ideas. Now we're on a podcast, like we became friends. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we're sharing the same passion for Clay and doing all these things around Clay. And so then you have hundreds of people and thousands of people doing that. And that's a hard thing to kind of break up or like compete against.
Totally.
It becomes ingrained in like the person's like ethos and like vibe.
What you said about interviewing with 40 or 50 startups, I think my guess is most people would think that's insane. Like the best way to be lucky or the best way to make good decisions. I think this is from Charlie Munger or maybe Shane Parrish, who got it from someone else, is have a lot of options. Choose between 10 different things instead of 2 or 1.
You also get just a lot of different insights and viewpoints on like the market. And then you start to get a sense of, okay, this team or this product is doing something in a different way compared to how everyone else talks about how they go to market. Also, like my long-term goal is to be on the VC side. So I also enjoy the process of kind of thinking about the company, evaluating it. So for me, it's like slightly fun. But then after like all those interviews, I was like, all right,
time to choose.
I'm ready to be done with this. But yeah, and then found Clay. So I spent a lot of time on it. But I also had the time, like I'd taken off time, so I wasn't working. So I had the time to kind of like.
I see. This is while you were traveling.
Oh no, this was right before Clay.
I see.
After the first startup, that's when I did the big backpacking trip.
Cool. First off, what's weird about Kareem and Varun? Like, do they have any weird quirks that you've noticed?
Well, I just wasn't like expecting this, but Varun is so tall. Like
I've seen pictures where he's like
crazy tall. Like the first time I met him, I just like wasn't expecting him to be. I didn't think about it, but like that was something I was just, whoa, you're really tall. That was just kind of funny. And then Kareem, I remember like the first all hands meeting that I was a part of. I think that was like during the work trial, and I might have been like a minute late or something. And Kareem's up there like reciting poetry. Ooh. I was like, what's going on at this company? the CEO's reciting poetry. But a lot of meetings, like he starts off with some quote or a passage or poetry, and then he draws like an insight from it and brings it back to like how we want to think about Clay or go to market or the level of, I don't know, work or whatever it is. And that's, I don't know, that's pretty cool. It's just a different way of talking about what needs to be done and helping to like, I guess, yeah, get everyone like aligned in the same direction. So those passages and quotes are, I don't know, I always look forward to them and hearing what he has to say like around it and bringing it back to Clay.
Awesome.
Not necessarily weird, but walking in and hearing this
Different.
Yeah, different. Those are the two things probably Kareem and Varun.
Anyone else that you I'm sure that I've interacted with a ton of people from Clay, and everyone's fun and super smart. Anyone that you want to give a shout out to, that, or a couple of people you want to give shout outs to?
Yeah, a couple people. I mean, when I was doing the work trial and I was kind of like struggling with thinking about what to do next and making that decision, Yash he was kind of like my personal coach through that. So we kind of had like one-on-one sessions, and he was almost like a psychologist, asked me questions, thinking about like. So it was cool because he was kind of my buddy onboarding, and he was helping me kind of get to know the company and Clay. But then at the same time, he was, and this is like so special about Yash, is like he has this way of just helping you think about things. And so he was kind of like my personal coach through that experience. So calling out Yash because that
Yash is awesome.
helped me join Clay, and make that decision, which I'm very thankful for. I like to joke that Everett, our head of GTM engineering, like that his second role is really just helping me with like IT support, because I struggle with almost everything related to logging into apps or all that stuff. So he's always getting a little perturbed with my lack of skills in that area, and he has to help me. We always joke about that. And then Sabrina on the GTM engineering team has this strange fascination with seagulls.
Oh, okay.
Like one day, like these Slack emojis just started popping up, and it was just like this seagull kind of like yelling into the, just like yelling, like squawking. I was like, what
Okay.
is this? And then I look back at the post, and there's like 5 more seagulls on it, each with like different heads. There was like a head of
What?
on one, like a head of me on one.
Oh, with people's, did she make it for every single person in the company?
Yeah, there's like 10 people with different seagulls, and then she took all of those and then made a choir of seagulls. That's just like small little Slack emoji. So yeah, she makes Slack a lot of fun. She's creating these Slack emojis, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, she loves seagulls. I think she actually, the rumor has it, she has a seagull as a pet at home.
Okay. Interesting. Wow, that's hilarious.
But yeah, just so many cool people at Clay. Like just like another one, Kyle. He's super creative with how he thinks about building workflows. Like he created this macronutrient tracker, and he has like an app on the phone that I don't know exactly how it works, but like he'll input like what he ate, and then it goes into a Clay table for like analysis, and then it goes into this app that shows up as a widget on the iPhone that is kind of like a front end for what's coming out of like Clay. So he just has, I don't know, that kind of like blew my mind, and it was like, wow, you can really think about Clay as more than just, outbound email. You can use it as almost like the back end of creating some type of like application.
Totally. Nice. So kind of, that's a great segue into, in our last 10 minutes or so, maybe you can talk to us and maybe show us a couple less common workflows that are cool.
Yeah, let me bring this up. So this is actually a workflow so for my newsletters, I like to run a lot of different experiments to figure out how can I grow faster. And so this is one workflow that I'm using for the augmentedseller.com. And basically what happens is I'm using this service called LetterDrop. You can monitor keywords on LinkedIn. So the blog is on, how sellers can use AI more effectively in their like day to day, and how to save time and use it to come up with better points of view to go into accounts and so on. So basically how to use AI in sales. So I'm monitoring AI in sales. And so anytime someone mentions or creates a post that mentions like AI in sales, it sends that post and the person into a Clay table. That Clay table will bucket that post and analyze and say, is this a job opportunity? Is this a best practice? Is this a tool review? Like usually it falls into like one of these like 8 categories. Based on that, then a message is created, and that message relates to, hey, you just posted about X, Y, and Z job opportunity. I love using AI in sales too. I'm actually writing a newsletter about this and would love to feature that job in the newsletter.
Oh, awesome.
Just as like, I don't want to go in with like a hard sell. I kind of want to naturally introduce the newsletter while providing value. And one of the things I want to do is have a section that shows like upcoming exciting new jobs, like sourced from the community. So a way to find content to put in the newsletter, but then also a way to like introduce newsletter to strangers. And so I wasn't sure if this was going to work, but now actually seeing a pretty nice reply rate, I think like between 15 and 20%
Nice.
of people respond. And that's driving like newsletter subscriptions, which is
What kind of volume are you seeing on this, on the trigger?
I haven't like scaled it up too much, like over the past week and a half, maybe.
Oh, so very new.
Yeah, emails have gone out to maybe like 80 people or so. And I'm not sending them to everyone. I'm sending them according to how I like segment. So now that I have an indication that it works, I'm probably going to scale it like a little bit more and see, what this could like really produce over time. But yeah, this is kind of what I call LetterOps, and have all sorts of different workflows that have Clay in the background to grow the newsletters, which is also a lot of fun because I learned something new and then share it, show people how to do it. And then that content also helps drive some nice
I love
growth.
that. I like talking with people who are thinking of joining the boot camp. I see all these little niches starting to appear, like event ops, like you're saying, letter ops, rec ops. Someone said yesterday, recruitment operations, alongside the more common sales use cases, etc. It's really cool. I really love that you are specializing in this. Please continue. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and then just to continue here, like if someone responds, then you can have another workflow where, a demo booking link is sent. Let's say sales rep has a conversation. Let's say this is off of the newsletter onto like just someone new coming in. Then we can take the transcript, send it into LetterDrop. This is also kind of, well, actually, yeah, it is kind of part of the newsletter and Clay growth strategy. LetterDrop will take that call, extract insights and various points from it, and anonymize it, and then create a LinkedIn post that looks something like, oh, I was talking to a CMO today, and her challenge was X, Y, and Z. These are 5 things that I shared with her. So those types of posts.
Is that posting automatically, or do you have a human in the loop to just make sure it looks good?
Yeah, still a human in the loop. So we'll review it. Usually I'll tweak it a little bit, but it gets me about 85 to like 95% of the way there, and kind of skips the ideation phase, looking at LinkedIn thinking, I need to post today. What am I going to like post about? So it helps with that
Right.
too.
I love that.
So that's pretty cool. And then you can obviously extend this and have Zapier record this into like something like Monday.com, but then extending the Gong workflow. This is one that Go Nimbly created, customizable like Gong summaries and follow-ups. So what happens with internally is the Gong call transcript gets imported into a Clay table. It'll extract the content, synthesize it, and then create copy. And that copy could go into like a Slack notification with a summary of that call, maybe recommended questions for like the next call, then like recommended like follow-up email. Also send the person into like a sequencer like HeyReach so that you connect with that person on LinkedIn. They hopefully connect. And then as you're posting new content, then over time you're kind of getting more of your content in front of that person so
Yep.
you become more
Nurture
familiar
them.
and kind of repeats itself. And then you can obviously add it into like Gong Engage or something else like that. So that's also pretty cool. Also doing this with Claymation too, where I will send the new subscriber into Clay. Clay enriches it, sends it to like Growth Machine, then like Growth Machine sends a connect request and then message saying, hey, thanks for subscribing to Claymation. Let me know if I can like help, something like that. So have a lot of fun with these different, or trying to create these different like growth loops.
You're in such a cool position where you're paid to learn Clay, and then you build this machine around you, and then you can write about it, and the calls you're on are used by the machine to create more content. And it's just this flywheel that, I mean, I imagine this is sort of a similar loop that Eric Nowoslawski got in when just earlier on. And so I see you rapidly becoming, if you're not already, rapidly becoming Clay famous. Do you want to be famous?
I just want to help people build cool stuff and do that through like the newsletters and show them like what's possible. I think I want to help them find the excitement and possibilities that you can do with Clay, but also like other no code, low code tools. Like now, as someone pretty non-technical, I'm not an engineer, I can create apps and all sorts of stuff, and that's super powerful, and I want to help other people like discover how to do that too.
Any closing thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I would say like I feel like a lot of people say Clay is hard to learn, but they might just be repeating that because other people have said it's hard to learn. But if you go through a certain sequential steps of like learning Clay, you learn the basics, I think it's actually easier than most people think.
What are those sequential steps that you would recommend people go through?
I was going to actually turn that back to you since you since you run the boot camp. But yeah, I think it's one thing that helped me was learning how one piece of data unlocks another waterfall or another piece of data. So for example, you find the domain of a company and then you use that domain to plug it into something that then finds like the LinkedIn profile of that company. And then once you have that, then you can plug that LinkedIn profile to like finding an enriched profile of the company and so on. And so, yeah, having a decent understanding of what you need to find in order to unlock like the next thing, I think is like super, super helpful.
Makes sense. Yeah. I think a lot of people when they're starting don't realize it helps to think backwards, like what's my output that I'm trying to go after, then kind of reverse engineer. How do you, like, even if you're not a technical person, the skill of thinking backwards like that is one that, is very learnable.
Or just like how would I do this manually? And then
that's a huge one.
And like how would I accomplish each small thing first before going to like the next thing?
Awesome. Well, it's been a huge pleasure having you on,
Same.
Alex.
Same. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.